Hey everybody, I'm Pastor Jackie. Welcome to the live show. Am I looking good? I got my sweatshirt on and my hat, just trying to be cool. But welcome. Glad that you're here. We are going to continue our conversation about I wish I was white. I wish I was white. It'd be easier for me to say some of the things that that need to be said, that I've been wanting to say. So, hoping that your ears are ready. You're ready to hear and to learn and to deal with some of the controversy, some of the heavy things that I'm going to have to say in order to, to really get information across to you that I think is super important. In our last time together, and let me well, first of all, let me pause, and I want to thank, and these people didn't give me permission, so maybe I'll use their last name in the next segment. But I want to thank Mark for the information that he shared. I want to thank Barb for what she has shared with me. Tim Weiss, who has created some documentaries and books that I own that are around this. I didn't do this on my own. I appreciate folks that I was able to pass information by that, had some great things to say and some information to share. All right. I thought Friday that I was going to complete this, right? And then I realized as I continued to put information together, I said, man, there's so much information. I'm not going to be able to finish this on Friday, so I'll have to finish it on Monday. Then all weekend, I have done almost nothing but dibble and dabble in this, sometimes late at night, and realized again, nah. So I want to get to the origin of where racism comes from, as we're looking at, key verses and all that kind of stuff. I want to get to the origin of where this stuff comes from. But I'm not going to get as in depth with it as I would like to do. I mean, I know how to be concise. I certainly know how to do that. My radio show is a 15-minute drive time show, Monday through Friday. Would love for you to check it out. So I would love to be able to do that. But this doesn't, it's like in times past, I've cut some things short that ended up being the very thing that somebody challenged me on. And I was like, man, I should have put that in there. So I'm not gonna try to be brief, but not gonna cut myself short. But we are definitely we're gonna write this story. All right. So let's take a look at our foundational verse. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 15 says, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice." And I'm looking for, that person that is willing to listen to good advice, to see the truth and walk in that truth. Right? Not, just, well, I'll get into more of this later, but not be so willing to just be spoon-fed information. I used an example of this when we met the last time. I talked about abortion. And what I showed you from abortion that was very important, probably very different from what you've heard, is that abortion, was passed into law by the Republicans. Now, I'm not going to read back through all of this because I want to I got a lot of fresh information. But, there was a majority of a Republican majority, and they passed abortion into law. 49 of the last 50 years, the Republicans in the Supreme Court have been in majority, but nothing's happened. Every election cycle, they come to you and they tell you that this is, their pet project or the number one thing you should do. As a matter of fact, I showed in our last segment, you have people like Kenneth Copeland who said that I am complicit with murder if I don't vote Republican, literally, and other things that he said along those lines. Donnie Swaggart, you can't call yourself a believer and vote Democrat. These are the things that they're saying. They are making being a Christian and being a Democrat synonymous statements, and they're not. As a matter of fact, I also showed you that Republican presidents have had slightly, not a lot, but slightly more abortions than Democratic presidents. I want you to be able to see that and understand that what you've been being told for years is not true. I want you to be able to see and understand the graph that I showed. That's why I encourage you. You have to listen. I can't go back over everything. You have to listen to the first video. I wish I was white 1. Writing the story, I wish I was right 1. It's on Facebook. That white on white crime is higher than black on black crime. There are more white people on welfare than there are black. There's this thing about social programs that if, a social program, if if people are getting too much, then there's an issue. Like, for instance, after 9/11, there were a lot of people after 9/11 that were excited about those families of the people that died in the towers, that they would get money. But after a couple of months, 3 months, whatever it was, went by, now they started having a problem with it. Maybe they're getting too much. Our generosity only lasts so long, unfortunately. But here's another thing. False prophets, right? One thing I said about a prophet, I use myself as an example, not as a prophet, but the times that I prophesied, is that a prophet is always 100% right. So we have to test the spirits to see whether or not they're right. Let me share something else with you as well. We have all of these news stations, and I'll deal with this in a second. Hopefully I'll repeat it. That, people are listening to CNN, which is not always right? MSNBC, Fox News, and other Newsmax, and other conservative, Rush Limbaugh, and other conservative stations that some are new, and some of these guys have been around for a long time, and people are trying to figure out, what do I believe? Well, a lot of people are leaning towards what they want to believe. A lot of people are trusting that these folks know what they're saying. But one of the ways that is, are they giving you researched information? Not their thoughts. I'm going to show you a video in a second, and I will repeat it because it automatically comes up. Are they showing you something that you can hang your hat on because it's from a reliable source? If not, then you have to take it as their opinion. I'll give you an example in a minute. All right. Now, here's some verses. You can write these down. I really don't have time to go over them. In Ezekiel, talking about how the Sabbaths have been violated and that there are people that are prophesying in God's name, but God isn't the one that's prophesying. These preachers are covering these politicians. That's exactly what's going on now, but the Old Testament talked about it. Let me back up so you can get the verse. Ezekiel 22, actually start at about verse 22, 23, and go all the way to the end. That's about the best way to handle it. At least it's on the recording, even if you're not writing anything down right now. So God said he's looking for somebody that'll stand up, stand in the gap, tell the truth, right? And regardless of, a lot of these people, ended up in persecution and things like that because they stood their ground. I had somebody say to me the other day, yesterday, about being careful because of what might happen to me. First of all, I'm not concerned about that for a variety of reasons, but I can't let that stop me from getting truth to you. So let's talk about this man who just ran for president. Let's go back over this, but I'm going to add a few pieces. All right. Why do I need to repent or ask for forgiveness when I'm not making mistakes? This is a man that we're declaring as a Christian that we should follow. Right? Salvation on credit. People prophesying about, his grandmother being in a revival and all that. So we let this man in, and this is the stuff he starts doing. Removing us from various organizations, trying to take away things pertaining to healthcare and all of that. Taking us out of accords that are best for us. And just running behind this man just because he's a Republican. It's really no more than that because, as I said before, you wouldn't let this dude teach a Bible study at your church or anything like that. Trump paid more in prostitutes than he paid in taxes. as a candidate, he talked about the size of his hands so that you would understand the size of his penis. This is somebody that's running for the highest office in the land, that speaks in this decadent fashion, and somehow he's supposed to be an example and a role model. And I don't have time to get to it today, but man, I've got some letters of congratulations, notes and texts of congratulations that have been sent to Joe Biden, and some other things I may not show. I'll be selective with this, but things from parents that are just a bunch of them. That's why I'm saying I'll be selective. All these people that are like, now we can get back to normal. Congratulations. America can get back to who they were. Parents saying, now, I can have an example for my kids. And some of these parents were Republican parents. This man locked kids in cages, and kids died in cages. I told you in the last one about the sterilization that has gone on of young girls, which happened in South America, and America participated in that. A lot of these people that are coming to this country, it's because of issues we caused, of poverty and unrest. Now we want to act like we can just look the other way. But this is who he is. This is what he's done to other people. And he's put propaganda in your head that they're coming to take something away from you. We're going to deal with that next time. I'm going to give you a taste of it now. That's one of the ways that racism works. I'm going to give you somebody else. Hitler did it. Caesar actually did it. We've had these dictators and people that have come into power that say, you've got a problem, and it's those guys. That's your real issue. And if we get them out of the way, you'll be okay. And I'm so tempted to go into more detail, but let me leave it alone. I'll save it for Wednesday. Here's the thing. People start protesting because of black people that are being killed, right? They start protesting because, obviously, it's wrong. But a lot of white folks have made up in their mind that, no, it's not because of that. They don't know how to act. They won't, if you would just act right. I don't know how many times I've seen somebody post that foolishness. If you would just act right. If you just acted like you're supposed to, this wouldn't happen to you. So we're an unruly people that we don't know how to conduct ourselves when we're at a police stop. And here are all of these people. Some of these I know you haven't seen before. These folks died in custody. Right? Michael Brown might be familiar. That's the first picture. But these other folks, they died in custody. Not all of them, I'm sorry. Many of them died in custody. How are you already in the police station and now you die? How's that happening? Right? Sandra Bland. How does that happen? They find somebody that's on their way to get a brand new job, nothing but life in front of her. She commits suicide. Hangs herself. Let me leave that alone. I don't want to lose my audience. I'll just say, really? Really? There's a story to go along with every one of these. Or cops slip every once in a while, right? Like Trump said, it's like playing golf. Sometimes you choke. Really? That's a life, man. That's a life. That's somebody's life. So, we protested what this cat was doing. And it went to another level of protest. Football players, they're trying to, it expanded. He said they need to be fired. They need to be fired. Get rid of them for saying something's wrong. And there were so many people, and you know who you are if you're watching this right now. You know exactly who you are telling me people needed to find another way to protest. My wife had people say that to her, and no other black people had. What other way would that be? A way you don't see it so you don't have to deal with it? Cognitive dissonance. We'll deal with that next time. It's okay, I'm watching a football game and I'm being entertained right now. I don't want to know that there's unrest in the world because I want to feel like everything's already all right. Well, that's good as a confession, but if it's not reality, we need to do something about it. Not look the other way. And I certainly appreciate all of the white folks that care and all of that. It means something. But we have taken this man and we have made him a cult of personality. Taking the Confederate flag, as I said in the last one, taking the Confederate flag and you've attached his name to it. Any other candidate should say, please don't do that. Please don't include me in that. Because I don't want to be associated with that. But he doesn't do that. He soaks it all in. Because for him, it gives him the votes he wants, the people that wish to support him. It gives him what he wants. So why would he want there to be any change? No reason to. But this is the person that Christians want to be their representative? Why? Why do white evangelical Christians want this kind of individual to hold the banner up of the American cause? Why? Why? Don't you want somebody that has real Christian values? Somebody that really does try to hold up the bloodstained banner? So we have an election. This kind of behavior is put on trial. And what happens in the election? He loses. He loses. Let me show you some fair and square stuff in a minute, because I know that some people just want to consume information. But before I do that, here's the response. We'll talk about this on the other side.
They're trying to steal this election from President Trump. There is no doubt about it.
The real point is that fraud took place, and that should horrify us. I can factually tell you tonight, it will be impossible to ever know the true, fair, accurate election results. That's a fact.
There's simply no way Joe Biden was legitimately elected president. Just can't believe it.
I ask, oh God, that you would take your iron rod, and I ask that you would smash the delusion, Father, of Joe Biden as our president. He is not.
The media said Joe Biden's president. Ha 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 ha
But the evidence shows from DHS that the election was above board. That there was no stealing of the election. It's the most secure in history. Why? Because they were trying to watch out to see what are the Russians going to do? What's Iran going to do? We've got a president that back in July started saying that this election was going to be rigged. You got Sean Hannity telling you that there's no way we're ever going to know whether or not we had a free and fair election. No way we're ever going to know Yes, there is. Let me take a moment and explain this while you hopefully peruse that on the screen, read it more than one time. Trump's people were asked if they were getting in to examine things to make sure that machines were right, ballots were counted right, all that. They said yes. I guess they didn't know they were supposed to lie. So they're getting in, they're inspecting things. They're, Biden's people are there, Trump's people are there, and the officials for whatever state that was. Let me show you how this works. A couple of things. Arizona, the way they count their ballots, they've been doing mail-in for years. Retirement community, many people there voted for Trump that are senior citizens, right? White senior citizens. They voted for him. That's fine. There was also same-day voting, and that's why the voting, there was a slow change. But the reason in Pennsylvania that it was so rapid is because, first of all, in their state, different from Arizona, different from Georgia, in their state, they don't start counting ballots till the day of the election. They don't count ballots ahead of time. So it's set up different. And so they started counting the ballots, and they counted the ballots for the day of first. And that's why when they started counting the mail-in, and early voting, that's why Trump should have done it that way. Would have been better for him to do that. But he didn't. And it cost him the election, perhaps. So different systems, but these people did what was right. It was inspected. I just came from the television. There are more cases. There were 18 cases. I think it was Friday that 6 of them had already been thrown out. All of them have been thrown out. And now there's more. I'm not even sure what the number is. Because all they do is take a look at it, and it doesn't even go further so that they can investigate. It's true that clear that it's fraud. But when you have something from the Department of Homeland Security, when you have scientists, scientific information, that's what you listen to. I don't listen to Hannity. That's propaganda. That's why people are running away from Fox. I'm getting ahead of myself. That's why people are running away from Fox. Because they called Arizona before anybody else did. They called the election for Biden. Why? Because at Fox News, you have newscasters that are real journalists, and you have these shock jock propaganda type folks like, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Lou Dobbs, who I used to love to listen to Lou Dobbs. Lou Dobbs. He's just, come on, man. It was my cat. Anyway. So when you're trying to figure out what to believe, who's got the evidence? Who's got real evidence? Not just what they're saying. Sean Hannity talking about we'll never know. It's just such a lie. But it's to get ratings. Look at Fox News' original charter, why they were created. Find that. Google it. It should be Google it. I read it years ago. They were created to make money. And if they and the owner said, if we found out that through a Democratic platform we can make the money that that we're making now, because they look for a population that wasn't being served, he said we changed today to a more Democratic platform. Why? Because it's about money. All right, let's watch some other things that'll help us understand this.
And his go-to shows on Fox. I want to bring in former Fox News chief political correspondent Carl Cameron. He is the co-founder of Front Page Live. And, Carl, I really wonder what you think about Republicans, because we know that they know the writing's on the wall here. It's not like they're expecting that somehow this election outcome is going to be reversed, but they're placating President Trump. I wonder, if you can shed some light on when you think that kind of expires.
Well, it'll certainly expire once we get to the Electoral College, and that'll be the end of it, notwithstanding his ability to keep on barking. But it's also worth noting that his
said that there wasn't enough evidence really to go forward on this. People like Corey Lewandowski and others in the administration have told him that it's a very, very shaky leg to stand on. And yet, onward he goes. And this is just classic. Trump has made a history of accusing others of the misdeeds or the criminal behavior or the aberrant behavior that he's already conducted. So accusing Democrats of election fraud is to be expected, because this is a guy who was gaslighting his voters for the last 4.5 years.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of projections.
So take a look at this. Al Schmidt is a Republican in Philadelphia. He is a Republican. But when he didn't do what Trump wanted him to do, or say what Trump wanted him to say, he was considered as, he's an unfaithful Republican. Same thing with Georgia. These folks are Republicans, but they have been considered to be what's called rhinos. That's Republican in name only. Republican in name only. You're a Republican in name only. You're not the real deal. You're faking it. You're faking it. And the other thing that they say, and this is one of the biggest tricks, and it is that, folks fighting over who is a real American, and they're attaching your voting Republican with patriotism, right? They've taken patriotism and made that what a Christian is. If you're not a Christian, then you must not be a patriot, the way that they're explaining it. And so out of that, we get some other dangerous things. First picture up in the corner, God's talking about seceding. Right? Secede. Because that's what some people are talking about. And then you've got, and all these other pictures are about the Proud Boys. The ones that were told to stand by the President of the United States. They were told to stand by. Wait for orders. And then they posted, yes, Mr. President, we're standing by. We're waiting for your orders. We're waiting for whatever it is you desire for us to do. We're standing by. It's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy that this country may end up in serious, things may get out of hand. There may be violence because these people, the president so desperately does not want to lose office. And so where do the believers come in on this now? What position are you going to take if things become violent? Young man goes and shoots people. Tucker Carlson comes on Fox News and says, well, because, the police wouldn't do what they're supposed to do. The man walked past an armored vehicle, walked up to there were plenty of police that were there. But they wanted to consider him a great American and started sending in. Y'all got to get this. You have got to get this. Money was sent in on his behalf for his defense. As if killing people is okay as long as you do it in the name of Trump, as long as you do it in the name of being a Republican, as long as you do it in the name of it's okay to tear up a city if your hockey team wins, but it's not okay to protest if unarmed people are being shot. Michelle Bachmann blaming George Floyd's death on George Floyd. I played that. That's in the first video. And where this may go is insane. And we've got to wake up to the reality of what's happening. So Fox News isn't going far enough for some of these folks. They're not going far enough. So, people are walking away from Fox News and going to something called Newsmax, which is just completely and totally off the chain. They're saying Fox News isn't conservative enough. They're not radical enough. And they've come up with all of these theories like the electronic voting machines were rigged to do the wrong. Do you understand, people? Do you understand? Because each state does things differently, do you understand the way that conspiracy would have to be designed? You'd almost have to do something different in every state. But the Department of Homeland Security, not Jackie Jackson, not Pastor Jackie, not somebody else, not some friend of mine, not CNN, not MSNBC, not Fox or Newsmax or anybody else, not somebody with an opinion, but the people who are responsible for keeping us safe say that this is the fairest and the most secure election we've ever had. So why are you, evangelicals, why are you buying into this propaganda? Why are you allowing this? Read that, please. In its first ever Homeland Threat Assessment released on Tuesday, the Department of Homeland Security named white supremacist groups as the single most dangerous domestic extremist threat in this nation. You know what? Let me get myself off of here. So you can see that clearly. The biggest threat in our nation is internal. The biggest threat in our nation is internal, not external. It's not on the outside. It's within our own borders that they are allowed to operate and do what they want. Now, here is a taste of Wednesday. I got something else to show you, and then I'm going to close. I want you to see this and understand how this stuff perpetuates itself. I probably actually will use this video again, but let's pick this up. We'll talk on the other side.
Scientists placed 4 monkeys in a room with a stepladder upon which there was a bunch of bananas. Whenever a monkey went to climb the ladder, the other monkeys in the room were sprayed with cold water. After a while, each time a monkey went for the bananas, the others would attack it to prevent it from doing so. The monkeys learned to never climb the ladder. But then, one of the monkeys was removed, and a new monkey wearing a raincoat was introduced. Naturally, this monkey went for the bananas, and it was customarily attacked and prevented from doing so by the others. This new monkey learned not to climb the ladder. So when another monkey was substituted in and made for the bananas, all the others attacked it, including the one in the raincoat, despite the fact that it had never been sprayed with cold water. A third monkey was substituted in, and then a fourth final monkey. And still, when every monkey tried to climb the ladder, the others would prevent it from doing so, even though none of them had ever been sprayed with the cold water. When asked why this was, one monkey said, "That's just the way it is."
You understand the concept? You getting that? It makes sense to you? After a while, when certain things have perpetuated themselves, we don't even know why we do what we do. We don't even know why hate is stored up in our hearts. We don't even understand cognitive dissonance. There's this implicit bias that is in us, that racism that's there. And yes, it is in the church. Some of it was created by the church. I'll prove that next time. It was created by the church. So it's a dangerous thing, because it was created by a church. So, the most dangerous person in the world, or the hardest person to convince, is somebody that thinks they're right. And it's hard to find anybody that thinks they're right and is more stubborn than Christians. This picture is John Palovitz, and he wrote something I want to read to you that I think you need to hear. I'll try not to stop too many times, but there's some stuff, it's just, he wrote this recently. He is a pastor and an author. And he says, "Dear white evangelists, I need to tell you something. People have had it with you. They're done. They want nothing to do with you any longer, and here's why. They see your hypocrisy, your inconsistency, your incredibly selective mercy, and your thinly veiled supremacy. For 8 years, they watch you relentlessly demonize a black president, a man faithfully married for 26 years, a doting father and husband without a hint of moral scandal or the slightest whiff of infidelity. They watched you deny his personal faith convictions, argue his birthplace, and assail his character, all without cause or evidence. They saw you brandish scripture to malign him and use the laziest of racial stereotypes in criticizing him. And through it all, white evangelicals, you never once suggested that God placed him where he was. You never publicly offered prayer for him and his family. You never welcomed him to your Christian universities. You never gave him the benefit of the doubt. In any instance, you never spoke of offering him forgiveness or mercy. Your evangelists never publicly thanked God for his leadership. Your pastors never took the pulpit to offer solidarity with him. You never made any effort to affirm his humanity or show the love of Jesus to him in any quantifiable measure. You violently opposed him at every single turn, without offering a single ounce of the grace you claim as the heart of your faith tradition. You jettisoned Jesus as you dispense damnation on him. And yet, you give carte blanche to a white Republican man so riddled with depravity, so littered with extramarital affairs, so unapologetically vile, with such a vast resume of moral filth that the mind boggles. And the change in you is unmistakable. It has been an astonishing conversion to behold, and being born again. Being born again. With him, you suddenly find religion. With him, you're now willing to offer full absolution. With him, all is forgiven without repentance or admission. Christianity on credit. With him, you're suddenly able to see some invisible, deeply buried heart. With him, sin has become unimportant, compassion no longer a requirement. With him, you see only providence. And white evangelicals, all those people who have had it with you, they see it all clearly. They recognize the toxic source of your inconsistency. They see that pigmentation and party are your sole deities. They see that you aren't interested in perpetuating the love of God or emulating the heart of Jesus. They see that you aren't burdened to love the least or to be agents of compassion or to care for your Muslim, gay, African, female, or poor neighbors as yourself. No, you want to legislate these things. They see that all you're really interested in doing is making a God in your own ivory image and demanding that the world bow down to it. They recognize this is about white Republican Jesus, not dark-skinned Jesus of Nazareth. I think I'm going to spend some time on that. Prove that he's a black man later. And I know you don't realize it, but you're digging your own grave in these days. The grave of your very faith tradition. Yeah, because people aren't going to follow you. I've had people say if I wasn't already a Christian, I wouldn't become one because of how white evangelicals are acting. Your willingness to align yourself with cruelty is a costly marriage. Yes, you've gained a Supreme Court seat, a few months with the presidency as a mouthpiece, and the cheap high of temporary power, but you've lost a whole lot more. You've lost your witness. That's why I'm doing this. You've lost your wit. You've lost the power to speak into people. How do you get up and preach on adultery? There's just certain things you can't, because your moral compass is all messed up. You've lost an audience with millions of wise, decent, good-hearted, faithful people with eyes to see this ugliness. You've lost any moral high ground or spiritual authority with a generation. You've lost any semblance of Christ-likeness. You've lost the plot. And most of all, you've lost your soul. I mean, all these prophecies, what are you going to do when it doesn't turn out that way? Who are you going to blame it on when you say you heard from God and you did not? Who gets to blame for that? How do you explain that away? I can't wait to see what you're going to do. Hopefully, you're not going to help stir up these anarchists that want to secede. Final paragraph. I know it's like you'll dismiss these words. I know it's likely you'll dismiss these words. The fact that you've even made your bed with such malevolence shows how far gone you are and how insulated you are from the reality in front of you. But I had to at least try to reach you. It's what Jesus would do. John Pavlovitz. It's at least what Jesus would try to do. And I agree with that. That's why I'm doing this. I'm angry. I have those feelings. I'm hurt. I have a lot of feelings that I have, but I love you regardless. But you have to search your heart to find out whether or not this statement is true of you. Everyone who hates his brother or sister is a murderer, and you know that murderers do not have eternal life residing in them. You better be sure. You better be sure. You better find out if this is okay with God, the way that you have been conducting yourself. Now, when you come back next time, I'm done. When you come back next time, I'm telling you, I'm going to show you where this all comes from. What gave birth to this? Where did this come from? Where did this thinking come from? so that we can undo it. So that we can turn it around. So we don't continue to lose the opportunity to share our faith with other people. Because they don't trust us anymore, because they see that we've made something other than Christ our priority. I mean, I don't think they'll treat me that way because I'm black. So I guess I'm in a position of privilege to witness. But I don't want you to not have access to the people that you need to be talking to, that you get a chance to share with. We're supposed to be a brotherhood and all in this together. But we can't do it without writing this story. We can't do it without you taking a look at the truth and realizing that in this election cycle and before, you have gone way, way to the left. I'm Pastor Jackie. I want to thank you for spending some time with me today. May the Lord bless you, and may he bless your day. We'll see you on Wednesday for lunch. God bless you. Bye-bye.